Queen Elizabeth I may have lived a life of royalty, but this portrait of the English monarch hasn't been as fortunate.
It was hanging in the gift shop at Elizabethan Gardens with the bugs and the mildew and the and all of that.
The portrait had been a fixture at the gardens in Manteo for nearly 50 years, but 2 years ago, East Carolina University history professor Larry Tice went to see Elizabeth's image in person and brought an art historian along for the journey.
And she went, what? How did this get here? What is this doing here? And she said, this could be one of the greatest portraits of Queen Elizabeth in life.
Soon after, Elizabethan Gardens staff moved the portrait into a climate-controlled vault and enlisted the help of a group of researchers at ECU.
Do you feel like it's been restored there?
Yeah.
Since February, Tice and his colleague Suzanne Grieve have been studying the portrait and trying to determine its age and authenticity. The piece could potentially be worth millions, but the researchers are more concerned about its past than its price.
We believe that it is a time period painting, probably from 1550s to 1590s. It actually shows her in her later years when she is wrinkled and just showing signs of aging. So she was actually known to be quite vain, and she disposed of all portraits of her showing any kind of aging. So this is definitely a rare find.
I'm sure that we will be able to add to more data to its authenticity. We're going to be able to shed new light on this portrait.
But before the researchers can shine any figurative light, they have to make use of the literal variety, and lots of it. Raking light, ultraviolet light, even
Infrared actually allows you to see underneath the paint layers and see the original sketch that was used to paint over. The last person who saw it was the artist who put the paint on. Isn't that amazing? It's great.
Since the researchers can't do any investigation that disturbs the painting surface, the light is critical in their search for clues about the portrait's age. Thanks to the infrared light,
we were able to uncover some writing that's on the back. It's potentially a V and the number 6.
Probably these numbers that we found is a cataloging system, which could be extremely helpful because this portrait came from some estate in England, and so far the records have not yielded what estate it came from.
Historians say the portrait has important connections to North Carolina because of the role Elizabeth played during her reign in the 1500s.
Elizabeth gave the charter that allowed North Carolina to be created by Sir Walter Raleigh.
They're actually in parts per million.
On top of the work they're doing with lights, the researchers are studying the pigments used to give Elizabeth her coloring.
Identifying the individual elements that are present in that type of paint is significant.
Because if something like titanium shows up, it could prove the portrait's much newer than advertised. So far, though, the researchers have only come across age-appropriate elements like copper, lead, and iron.
There's one right down the middle and one here I can see.
Tice and Grieve have also been bringing in a host of outside experts to help them in their research, conservators like Mark and Jane Bynan from Taylorsville.
It's had a history. And it's been through hands. Very rarely will you see an object or a painting of that age that hasn't been touched. Or if there isn't anything, that in itself raises questions.
The wood panels Elizabeth is painted on have some structural problems, as does the frame the monarch rests in.
We're often looking for things that are red lights. It's very difficult to say definitively what it is, but we can usually say what it's not.
And at this point, one thing the experts agree on is that Elizabeth is not new.
There's nothing that's indicated that it's a modern copy or even a historical fake. Nothing that says that.
The Elizabeth portrait's origins can only be solidly traced to 1959, when a North Carolina woman bought the portrait at an auction in New York. Dr. Tice believes a wealthy English family owned Elizabeth's image before that, and he hopes to gather even more information during an upcoming trip to London.
And I'm going to look at these other portraits and see if we have a match. This one that was conserved recently in London sounds like it could be a pair with this, but we'll see.
The goal in all of this is to identify and safely preserve a piece of North Carolina and world history. Even if the researchers don't find the proverbial smoking gun underneath Elizabeth's image, their efforts will have been worthwhile.
North Carolina is one of these places where we have treasures everywhere. You have a connection with something that is very important.